You are the kind of soul that refuses to be defined by whispers or shadows. Your presence alone unsettles those who thrive on imitation and control. Where others attempt to weave illusions, your truth shines like lightning, impossible to grasp yet undeniable to witness. They think they can decipher you, as if your path could be mapped by fragile hands, but their attempts collapse under the weight of what they cannot understand. When rivals gather, they bring schemes dressed as certainty, but their confidence is only a fragile mask. They approach as though you are a puzzle to be solved, yet every move they make only deepens their own confusion. What they call weakness is nothing but their blindness to the quiet strength you carry, a strength that grows not from noise, but from alignment with a rhythm larger than their plans. Around you, movements begin, strategies built on assumptions, alliances formed on shaky ground. They try to recruit, to pull others into their storm, but their reach fails because their vision is narrow. They mistake proximity for understanding, never realizing that the essence they seek is shielded by forces they cannot touch. Protectors, too, sometimes fall away, swayed by illusions that promise clarity but deliver emptiness. What seems like betrayal is only another lesson written into your journey. Even those who stand close can lose sight of what they once guarded. Their turning does not diminish you, it reveals them. And among these shifting roles, there are innocents, hearts drawn into struggles not of their making. They enter thinking they fight for truth, yet without the whole picture, they become pawns in games they never intended to play. Their sincerity is real, but it is misdirected, and their awakening comes only through the unraveling of falsehoods. Each collapse, each failed attempt, becomes proof that your path cannot be stolen, no matter how many try to claim ownership over it. The lessons fall on them like unrelenting waves, reminders that the chosen cannot be touched by schemes rooted in envy. In the end, what remains is unshaken. You move forward while their efforts dissolve into dust. Their battles end in mirrors, fighting their own reflections, while you continue as you always were, untouchable not because of armor, but because authenticity cannot be conquered. You carry within you a presence that unsettles the plans of those who believe they can outthink destiny. The more they plot, the more restless they become, convinced that secrets gathered in the dark will one day unseat you. What they never recognize is that their obsession only strengthens the clarity of your path. Entire webs of schemes emerge, woven by hands desperate to control what they cannot grasp. They whisper into familiar spaces, hoping to fracture bonds and twist loyalty. Fragments of your story are reshaped into tools of distortion, recast in ways meant to erode trust. Yet every distortion reveals more about them than it does about you. The designs grow intricate, maps drawn, strategies layered, endless meetings over how to pull you down. They calculate as though reputation were fragile glass, easily shattered if struck with enough force. What they do not see is that their entire campaign rests on shadows, and shadows cannot destroy light. Amid all their planning, they fail to notice the unseen guardians already in motion. Protection encircles you in ways their eyes cannot register. While they obsess over rumors and plots, currents far stronger are shifting silently in your favor. Forces beyond their reach ensure that every strike they plan collapses before it lands. They mistake your quiet resilience for isolation, unaware that the ground beneath you is reinforced by energies older and deeper than any scheme. Their instruments cannot measure this kind of strength, nor can their strategies account for what refuses to be mapped. Their oversight is not small, it is the flaw that ensures their own undoing. Each time they think they've secured the upper hand, unseen support redirects the outcome. It is not chance, nor luck, but an alignment of something far more enduring. Invisible allies, silent yet decisive, are already moving pieces they cannot even perceive. Their cleverness falters against forces they never calculated. In the end, their grand designs dissolve like sand in water. What they thought would weaken you only becomes another proof of your resilience. The protections surrounding you are underestimated every time, and each failure teaches them the same lesson: what is divinely fortified cannot be broken by human schemes. You are not defined by the lenses through which others try to analyze you, because their gaze is tinted with motives that cannot perceive purity. They peer from a place clouded by envy and competition, while your movements are guided by clarity they cannot access. Their attempts to dissect you always collapse, for they seek shadows where only radiance dwells. They approach with notebooks full of judgments, expecting to catalog faults that do not exist. Yet what they call flaws are simply projections of their own unrest. They hunt for weakness but stumble upon resilience, mistaking strength for something fragile simply because they cannot recognize what is genuine. The foundation of your life is built upon devotion and growth, but their examinations remain shallow, scratching at surfaces without ever reaching the core. They calculate based on appearances, never grasping that your character has been tempered through discipline, through lessons they have never endured. Daily choices rooted in alignment confuse them, for they cannot decode the reasons behind your calm presence. To those who rush through life in noise, stillness looks suspicious. To those addicted to conflict, peace looks like surrender. They interpret what they do not understand and label it with words that only reveal their own limitations. Your kindness unsettles them because it cannot be traced back to self-interest. They cannot comprehend generosity that asks for nothing in return, so they reframe it as weakness. The steadiness in your voice is mistaken for arrogance, as though confidence must always come with pride. Their misreadings expose more about their own fears than about your essence. Every sacred practice you embody remains invisible to them because it cannot be quantified or charted. What is cultivated in spirit does not show up in their reports, and what is refined in silence cannot be captured by their measurements. They look for evidence in the wrong places, never realizing that truth leaves no fingerprints for them to gather. And so, their conclusions crumble. What they misunderstand as fragility is in fact power disguised in humility. What they call passivity is the wisdom of restraint. What they label arrogance is the natural glow of someone who knows their path. No matter how they twist their interpretations, the reality remains unshaken. They cannot define what was never theirs to comprehend. Your life is a testament to what unwavering truth creates when it is lived without apology. While others look for shortcuts, you cultivate consistency, and that rhythm becomes a shield no deception can pierce. The strength you radiate does not come from force, but from an alignment that keeps you immovable even when many stand against one. Every action, every decision you take in integrity, reinforces a foundation that no betrayal can collapse. What may appear ordinary from the outside is, in reality, the layering of unseen protection. The more faithfully you honor your values, the more impenetrable the structure around you becomes. What is built on authenticity cannot be dismantled by envy. The daily path you walk, choosing honesty over manipulation, growth over stagnation, and spirit over ego, creates an unseen armor stronger than anything visible. Each step is another layer, another reinforcement, another refusal to be shaken. Attempts to target you meet this wall of unseen strength and shatter, leaving those who planned your fall disoriented. Still, there are those who believe they can rewrite your story. They operate from entitlement, convinced they can bend your reality into something fragile. Their arrogance blinds them, making them imagine that what is fortified through spirit can be toppled through strategy. Their miscalculation is the root of their collapse. In their desperation, they attempt to stage a spectacle, hoping to turn your name into entertainment for their own gain. They envision a ritual of disgrace, craving to see your image torn apart under watchful eyes. Their fantasy is one of crowds cheering while you stumble, but this script they create never unfolds as they desire. To sustain their illusions, they craft falsehoods and scatter them like seeds, recruiting those without discernment to water them. Lies multiply quickly when fueled by selfishness, yet truth remains untouched, waiting patiently to expose what was false all along. The louder their performance becomes, the clearer the difference between appearance and reality grows. And when the dust clears, it is not your spirit that stands broken, but theirs. They discover too late that the fortress they tried to breach was never built from walls of stone but from principles that cannot be destroyed. The stage they set for your defeat becomes the stage where their own illusions collapse. Those who cannot grasp your essence resort to fabricating stories that stir panic and suspicion. They craft scenarios designed to paint you as dangerous, leaning on fear as their chosen weapon. False records and invented accusations are assembled like props in a stage play, all in the hope of convincing others to doubt. Yet, none of these constructions ever reach you, for what surrounds you is untouchable. Plans drawn in secrecy unravel the moment they are tested against the protection that hovers over you. Where they anticipate damage, they are met with silence that unsettles them more than resistance ever could. Your choice not to wrestle with lies strips their performance of energy. By refusing to lower yourself into their theater, you shift the entire balance without uttering a word. This refusal leaves them disoriented because their entire strategy depends on provocation. They script responses for you in advance, expecting arguments and defensive pleas. Instead, your composure dismantles their architecture. Without your participation, the narrative collapses, leaving them arguing with an echo. Observers begin to notice the imbalance. The aggressors grow louder, their desperation more visible, while your calm presence makes their behavior appear increasingly unhinged. What was designed as a spectacle of humiliation twists into a revelation of their own instability. By not feeding the fire, you allow it to burn itself out. Through restraint, you display a wisdom that cannot be staged. You hold your ground by embodying purpose rather than chasing explanations. Every attempt to project harm recoils back, magnified by the very force they tried to harness. The shield around you is not built from reaction, but from faith in higher justice that never fails to act. Your essence itself becomes the barrier that dismantles darkness. Guardians rise on your behalf, unseen yet undeniable, shifting the outcome in ways no adversary foresaw. Their calculations never account for this invisible army, and every hidden strike rebounds upon the one who launched it. In the end, the very weapons raised against you transform into instruments of downfall for those who wielded them. The stage they prepared for your collapse becomes the site of their undoing. Protected by what cannot be measured, you remain untouched while the forces that sought to break you scatter in defeat. The resilience you embody did not appear overnight. It is the product of years devoted to inner refinement. Through discipline, reflection, service, and devotion to higher truth, you forged a shield no deception can pierce. The consistency of this path has built a depth of strength that others cannot interpret, for they only see the surface while the essence remains hidden from their view. Your foundation is rooted in alignment with a power far greater than human interference. Against such grounding, unskilled attempts at harm dissolve before they even reach you. The way you respond is not with panic or retaliation, but with unwavering steadiness. By refusing to entertain hostile energy, you maintain alignment with something unshakable and eternal. When conflict is forced upon you, you do not mimic it, you expand your own radiance. Rather than lowering yourself to strike back in kind, you deepen the very practices that keep you untouchable. This increase of light dismantles campaigns of malice, as the weight of truth causes falsehood to collapse under its own instability. Plots designed to weaken you instead turn inward on their creators. Those recruited into deception begin awakening, recognizing that what was framed as truth was nothing more than distortion. The momentum of attacks reverses, and the very energy meant to break you rebounds, unraveling the intentions of those who sent it. While confusion spreads through circles that once seemed united against you, you remain centered. The noise of humiliation rituals, slander, and attempts at isolation fail to disturb your spirit. Your calm presence against a backdrop of chaos highlights the difference between those consumed by fear and the one grounded in clarity. This sharp contrast speaks louder than words. As others flail under the weight of their schemes, you continue moving forward, steady in both purpose and direction. What appears to be non-reaction is not weakness but mastery, a refusal to feed into destruction by keeping your focus where it belongs. The strategy of composure becomes your greatest weapon. By embodying consistency and refusing to be dragged into battles designed to drain you, you reveal the hollowness of every attack. In holding your ground with dignity, you prove that true power does not shout, argue, or defend, it simply endures, unbothered and undefeated. The strength of your spirit reveals itself most clearly when pressure mounts. Those who expect you to lose control, retaliate, or abandon your values are left stunned when you choose restraint. By refusing to mirror the hostility directed at you, their elaborate designs crumble. Instead of proving their narrative, you expose their tactics for what they truly are, desperate attempts that cannot withstand integrity. Plots fueled by bitterness soon reveal their origin. Attempts to slander and distort always carry the residue of the one who speaks them. Communities recognize this contrast, and slowly, deception loses its grip. Genuine bonds rooted in honesty and respect cannot be poisoned by rumor, because people remember what they have witnessed with their own eyes. What you build stands on consistency, not illusion. While others invest energy in appearances and manipulation, you embody authenticity day after day. Over time, repetition tells its own story. Patterns of malice become clear, and the relentless focus of your adversaries begins to highlight their instability. Their obsession becomes the loudest evidence of their weakness. Your silence, when words are demanded, speaks louder than any defense could. Refusing to chase down every accusation, you hold steady, knowing truth requires no frantic explanations. This steadiness unsettles those who planned for chaos but leaves observers quietly impressed. Wisdom is revealed not in arguments won but in battles never entered. Each attack inadvertently polishes your reputation further. When lies meet the reality of your daily choices, people see for themselves that your character cannot be rewritten. Your actions form a record more powerful than any rumor. The difference between truth lived and lies spoken becomes undeniable. Meanwhile, those determined to tear you down erode their own credibility. Their tone grows shrill, their claims repetitive, their fixation unmistakable. The very energy they pour into your downfall only confirms what others begin to suspect, that the corruption lies not in you but in them. What remains after the dust settles is unmistakable. Your composure, your quiet strength, and your unshaken integrity leave a lasting impression on everyone watching. Without trying to prove yourself, you already stand proven. And without raising your voice, your life itself becomes the testimony that no amount of scheming can silence. The more schemes are launched against you, the more the contrast between authenticity and manipulation becomes visible. Each failed attempt to damage your reputation pushes your true nature further into the light. What was meant to diminish your worth instead draws attention to the strength of your character, making the desperation of your opponents increasingly obvious. In their panic, they resort to persuading others not to acknowledge your value. They beg circles of influence to turn away from you, hoping their words can outweigh lived experience. Even false warmth is displayed, masking envy with counterfeit gestures of kindness. Yet these shallow performances cannot overshadow the resonance of genuine energy. No matter how much effort is poured into distorting your image, authentic worth cannot be disguised. The natural draw of your presence cannot be blocked by propaganda. Attempts to reduce your light only highlight it further, because sincerity carries a magnetism that cannot be manufactured or controlled. Their duplicity becomes their downfall. Smiles given in public while betrayal brews in private only emphasize the gap between words and intentions. People sense the hollowness of such displays. Instead of protecting their schemes, the false friendliness exposes their insincerity to anyone paying attention. Meanwhile, you continue to cultivate real bonds and nurture connections rooted in truth. While deception unravels, your relationships remain intact. Those who know you recognize authenticity when they see it, and attempts to distort your character collapse against the consistency of your life. When persuasion fails, your adversaries escalate into recklessness. Lines once thought uncrossable begin to shatter. Supporters of yours face intimidation, and behavior slips into extremes that even former allies question. When nothing incriminating can be uncovered, desperation drives them to fabricate stories and construct illusions in hopes of finding something to cling to. False evidence emerges, altered records, forged accounts, and accusations built on nothing. But the truth remains clear. No matter how deeply your life is examined, no stain can be found. Their desperation makes them transparent, while your clean record stands as proof of everything they could not distort. The life you have created is not the product of chance, but the result of deliberate choices made over years. Every step taken with integrity has woven together a record that cannot be fabricated or erased. While others search frantically for flaws, what they uncover instead is a trail of authenticity, discipline, and consistent alignment with truth, evidence stronger than any defense you could ever speak. When intimidation arises, your response is not fear or paranoia but steadiness. You continue to move in alignment with higher principles, refusing to let threats distort your path. By staying true to your essence and remaining open with those who deserve your trust, your spiritual clarity remains unshaken. This calm defiance preserves your energy while reinforcing the foundation you have built. Even as schemes grow, your ability to recognize sincerity sharpens. The more deception swirls, the more naturally your circle refines itself. Connections rooted in truth expand while hollow bonds dissolve on their own. Those who once plotted to influence your surroundings find themselves scrambling, dialing frantically in hopes of gathering numbers against you. The conversations they create are not simple exchanges, they are orchestrated sessions of panic. Urgent calls ripple through networks, filled with attempts to shift blame onto you. Voices join in chorus, trying to convince others that you are the source of their chaos. Even potential companions in love are targeted, with manipulations designed to fracture what could grow. Yet, the noise is transparent. Listeners quickly discern the desperation woven into every word. Communities withdraw, refusing to participate in the theater of slander. Instead of isolating you, these campaigns isolate the very people who organized them. What they intended as a weapon becomes the reason their influence diminishes. What earns respect is your silence in the face of noise. By declining to descend into spectacle or defend yourself with hostility, you demonstrate dignity that cannot be staged. Observers notice the absurdity. How could one at peace be accused of creating storms? Their logic unravels as your composure stands unbroken. The imbalance becomes too obvious to ignore. Their fixation exposes itself as unhealthy, while your life moves forward untouched. Your refusal to participate is not weakness but wisdom, the wisdom to understand that authenticity requires no campaigns or defense. The truth of who you are is visible, and it is enough. The storms created around you do not disturb your stillness. While frantic messages and rushed gatherings erupt in your name, you remain anchored in peace, walking your own path with clarity. The steadiness you embody not only impresses those who value truth but also exposes the disproportionate obsession of those trying to undermine you. Each accusation begins dissolving the moment it is placed under the light of scrutiny. Attacks dressed as concern surface, with claims that you are deceptive or manipulative. Yet these words mirror the very behavior displayed by the ones speaking them. They attempt to lock you out of the conversation, to craft one-sided tales where you play the villain. But the mirror they hold up reflects their own patterns, and discerning eyes cannot be fooled. Labels get thrown like stones, each carrying a desperate attempt to wound your image. But every word betrays its source. Claims that you harm, control, or destroy relationships collapse because the aggression has always originated from them. As time passes, undeniable proof of projection reveals itself, leaving little doubt about where the dysfunction truly lies. The more they try to attach their shadows to your name, the more their own credibility erodes. People compare the accusations with what they know of you directly, and the gap becomes too wide to ignore. Those who experience your sincerity firsthand cannot reconcile it with the false narratives being circulated. Transparency remains your greatest ally.